Title: The Nameless One, a tale of stars, forests, and forgotten bloodlines. Chapter 1: The Edge of the World. At the frayed edge of the world, where the wildwood breathed like a sleeping god and the stars peered through the trees like watchful eyes, there lived a boy with no name. He was not born under a roof, nor was he swaddled in cloth when the wind first touched his skin. The elders of Gorsfield claimed he had been found in the roots of a tree, half covered in moss, his eyes wide as the sky above and storm gray as the river in spring. None claimed him, though many watched him. He was raised among goats and bramble, fed by a widow with a crooked spine who named him Boy, and nothing more. His tongue was slow to form words, but his ears caught every whisper the wind carried. The village sat like a faded smear between the wildwood and the heathered hills. Its people were quiet folk, content with soil and seasons, and they eyed the forest with superstitious wariness. Children were warned not to stray past the thorn gate, where the bramble grew too thick and the paths bent strangely. Yet the boy wandered. Often, he moved with silence, slipping beneath the canopy like a whisper. Birds did not startle at his passing, and foxes watched him without fear. The trees, old and bent like kneeling elders, seemed to know him. There were days he would sit beside the old stone, a moss-covered relic from the age before names, and hum to it, low and tuneless. Once, he brought it honeycomb and left it there like an offering. The villagers muttered. They did not like the way crows followed him, or how lightning sometimes struck far too close when he was angered. But the boy paid them no mind. He had no friends, no play, no future as they saw it. And still, something inside him burned, a quiet, aching sense that he was meant for more than goat hooves and ashes. The eve of his 13th summer came with a strange stillness. The sun sank heavy and red beyond the hills, staining the sky like spilt wine. The goats bleated nervously, and the wind did not blow. The widow, already asleep, did not stir when the boy rose from his straw pile bed. He did not know why he rose, only that he must. Outside, the air was warm and still. He stepped barefoot onto the dewy earth, passing the goat pen, the well, the cold embers of the hearth. The thorn gate stood open, though none had touched it in years. Beyond, the wildwood waited. He entered without fear. The trees closed around him like a cloak. Somewhere to the east, an owl called thrice. And then he saw it, a flicker, faint bluish-white, like moonlight caught in a droplet of water. A will-o'-the-wisp, the old tales would call it. The boy tilted his head, watching. It hovered just beyond reach, pulsing gently, and then drifted deeper into the forest. He followed. The path he walked did not exist. Roots curled beneath his feet in spiral patterns, and the trees leaned closer with every step. The light danced ahead, never too far, never near enough to touch. Birds fell silent. Even the wind held its breath. He walked until time lost meaning. The sky above was gone, replaced by a canopy of dark green limbs and silver leaves that shimmered with no sun to feed them. And then he reached it, a hollow in the earth where an ancient tree had fallen, its trunk split open like a wound. At its heart lay something that glowed, a blade, or what remained of one. Only a shard, half the length of his arm, its edge dulled with age and time. Yet it hummed, not with sound, but with presence, with memory. The boy knelt. His fingers trembled as he reached out. The moment his skin touched the metal, the world changed. Light filled him, not blinding but knowing. Images rushed through him, stars spiraling overhead, battles fought under bloodied moons, voices calling a name he did not yet bear. He gasped. The shard pulsed once, then fell silent. But something had woken, something that cannot go back to sleep. The boy rose, shard in hand. Behind him, the will-o'-the-wisp had vanished. He was no longer just a boy, and though he still had no name, the forest whispered one. It whispered begin. Chapter 2: The Phalite and the Root Blade. The forest did not speak in words, but in feeling, in pressure beneath the skin, in silence that grew too loud, in windless stirrings that shifted the soul. The boy felt all these things as he held the shard. The glow had faded, but the warmth lingered. It had not burned his hand, though it should have. The metal pulsed faintly, like something alive. He turned back the way he had come. Only there was no way. The path had vanished. The roots were tangled now, the trees too close, the air heavier than before. He was deeper now, far beyond the reach of village voices or goat bells. But he did not panic. The fear that might have seized another child did not come for him. Instead, a strange calm settled over him, like something in the earth itself was watching and choosing. He stepped forward. It began to rain, not a rain of water, but of light, tiny pinpricks of silver falling through the canopy, barely touching the ground. Phalite, the villagers might have called it, if they dared speak of such things. One drifted down and brushed his cheek. For a heartbeat, he saw a memory, not his own. A woman with fire in her eyes, standing atop a broken tower. A boy who bled stars. Then it was gone. The blade fragment in his hand glowed faintly. He wrapped it in a strip torn from his tunic and tucked it into his belt. "You carry a name," said a voice. The boy spun. A crow sat on a twisted branch above. It was large, far larger than any bird he had seen, and its eyes were cloudy white. "Who?" the boy began. "Names are not given," said the crow. "They are earned. That piece of steel knows more than you do, and still it chose you." "What?" The boy said nothing. "Good," croaked the crow. "The wise do not speak too soon. Listen first. Walk second. Speak third." The crow flapped down and landed before him, claws curling into moss. It cocked its head. "You are not ready for the truth, but you must walk toward it. West to Hollow Tree. There waits the Mad One. He will show you what the blade hides." "Who are you?" the boy asked. "I am the eye that sees no more," said the crow. "And yet I see you." Then it vanished in a burst of falling leaves. The boy walked west, though he had no compass. The forest seemed to bend around his steps, opening in strange places, closing in others. Once, he crossed a stream where fish swam backward. Another time, a tree bowed to let him pass. 3 days passed, or perhaps only one. Hunger did not gnaw, nor did thirst. It was as though the forest was feeding him with its own breath. He dreamed often. In one dream, he stood on a hill of bone, and the stars sang to him in a language he could not yet speak. In another, he held the blade in 2 hands, and it was whole, and it wept for what had been lost. When he found the hut, it was more root than house. It rose out of the forest floor like a boil, knotted wood and woven bramble, covered in moss and hung with wind chimes made of teeth. Smoke curled from a chimney that looked like an upside-down horn. He stepped forward. A voice rasped from within. "Enter, boy who's no name. The blade has sung you to me." And he entered. Chapter 3. The Crow Who Watches. The inside of the root hut smelled of wet leaves and old smoke. It was dim, no windows, no candlelight, yet the boy could see. The walls were made of living wood, their bark pulsing faintly, as though the hut itself breathed. Moss draped the ceiling in lazy curtains, and glowing fungi dotted the corners, casting soft green halos that moved when he blinked. The floor sloped unevenly, strewn with bundles of dried herbs, heaps of feather, and bones polished smooth by touch or time. A kettle hung over a crooked hearth, suspended not by iron, but by vines that twitched occasionally, as if tasting the air. The fire beneath the kettle crackled without wood, burning cold blue and utterly silent. Then he saw the man, or what might once have been a man. He sat coiled in a nest of blankets and furs stitched with crow feathers. His beard trailed to the floor like ivy, tangled with beads and bones. His fingers were long and dark-stained, his nails curved like talons. His face was carved with age, eyes like hollow pits beneath a brow thick with moss. One eye was covered with a lens of amber. The other, blind and pale, matched the crow's. The boy stood still. "You bring the shard," the man said, voice like flint on stone. "And so it begins." He beckoned, one gnarled finger curling toward a low table set with strange objects. A cracked skull, a bowl of black water, and a lantern filled with trapped light. As the boy stepped closer, the hut seemed to lean inward, groaning softly as if listening. Seat. The boy obeyed. The man leaned forward, the firelight shifting across his face, showing tattoos etched into the skin, circles within circles, runes that danced when watched too long. He studied the boy in silence for a long time. "You've touched the root blade," he said, "and lived. Tell me what it's saying." The boy looked down, fingers brushing the shard in his belt. "It show me stars, a tower, a woman who burned like a sun." "Ah." The old man sat back, bones creaking. "So the blade remembers, and it dreams still." The wind outside howled, though the trees had not moved when the boy approached. "The old man's single good," I narrowed. "Do you know what the shard is?" he asked. The boy shook his head. "It is a piece of a sword forged from sky iron and starfire, broken at the end of the Third Age in the War of Thorns. It was not meant to be found. It found you. That means it knows you, or knew you." He stood with difficulty, pulling something from a high shelf. It was a mirror, clouded, ringed with tiny carvings of birds. "Look!" The boy saw himself, his face pale, eyes wide. Then the mirror shimmered. The reflection blurred, melted, and shifted. Another boy stared back, older, clothed in silver and green, eyes full of starlight and pain. Behind him, armies marched through mist, and a great tree burned under a black sun. The boy gasped and jerked away. The mirror dulled. "You are not just a boy," the old man said softly. "You are a seed of something long buried, and now the wind of time stirs the soil." He turned and whispered to the shadows. From a beam above, something stirred. A crow, the same one, or another, it did not matter. Its blind eyes gleamed with knowledge no living thing should carry. It descended and perched upon the boy's shoulder without fear. "You will need a guide," the man rasped. "One who sees without sight. He remembers the path you must walk." "Why me?" the boy whispered. "Why now?" The man tilted his head. "Because you heard the forest calling when others heard only wind. Because the blade didn't kill you. Because the world is sick, and even the trees have begun to dream of fire." He reached toward the hearth and drew forth a wrapped bundle. He unrolled it on the table. Inside lay a scabbard, not for a full sword, but for a fragment, shaped of leather sewn with threads of starlight. He handed it to the boy. "Take it. Protect the shard. Let it grow." Outside, thunder cracked. Not a storm, but something deeper. A groaning of earth. A shift in the air, like the turning of a great page in the book of the world. The crow cawed softly. The boy stood. The shard pulsed faintly at his side. The old man smiled for the first time, revealing sharp, yellow teeth. "Go now, child of forgotten names. Follow the crow. Cross the hollow tree. When the stars fall, you must be ready." The boy turned, heart full of 1,000 questions he could not yet ask. He stepped back into the forest, and the door of the root hut closed behind him without a sound. Chapter 4. Through Hollow Tree Vale. The forest was different now. Not darker, but older, wiser, as though the trees had leaned a little closer after the boy left the root hut, whispering secrets in a language made of bark creaks and leaf rustle. The crow rode his shoulder, talons delicately nestled into the boy's tunic, its head twitching with every sound that echoed through the wood. The air was thick with scent, moss and myrtle, rotting leaves and distant rain. Shafts of bluish light pierced the canopy in angled columns, falling like frozen waterfalls upon the forest floor. Everywhere he looked, the natural world twisted with a quiet kind of magic. Vines moved without breeze. Rocks blinked. Mushrooms opened and closed like breathing lungs. And far ahead, the land dipped, a long, gradual slope into what the crow had named Hollow Tree Vale. The boy followed a half-seen trail, more suggestion than path. Branches parted for him, then wove back together, erasing his passage. Beneath his feet, the ground was soft, pillowed with moss and leaf rot, but the deeper he walked into the vale, the more the terrain began to change. The trees grew colossal, not tall like the pine towers of the northern woods, but wide, like ancient gods bent inward, their trunks as thick as houses, their roots exposed in great arches that formed caverns beneath them. Many of the trees had doors, small, crooked, vine-covered things, though none looked meant for men. Carvings marked the bark, spiral glyphs, bird tracks, runes worn nearly smooth. The boy paused often to study them, running his fingers across the grooves. Some were warm. One hummed faintly beneath his touch. The crow clicked its beak. Don't linger. They remember too much. What are they? The boy asked. Homes, said the crow. And graves. Sometimes both. They descended deeper. Mist began to rise, curling in tendrils from the roots and low places. It clung to the ankles, cool and damp, and made the air taste of stone and memory. Through the mist, the boy saw flickers, shapes darting between the trees. Small, fast, and many-eyed. They never came close, but they watched. He could feel them. Spirits, he whispered. Shades, the crow said. Ghosts of what grew here before men. This forest has 1,000 memories, and not all of them have forgiven the world. They came at last to a clearing. It was a perfect circle, ringed with 13 ancient trees. Each had split down the middle and hollowed from within, forming dark archways that gaped like mouths. In the center stood a stone, no larger than a table, flat-topped, cracked down the center. Upon it rested a broken crown of antler and silver. The boy stepped forward. The crow did not follow. This is Hollow Tree, it said, where the roots of the world first touched the sky, where the firstborn made the bargain, where names are given and stolen. The boy approached the stone. The forest was utterly silent now. Even a mist had drawn back. He reached for the crown, but just before his fingers brushed it, he froze. A voice in his head, deep, feminine, and full of sorrow. Touch it, child of the lost. But no, what you take, you must one day return. His hand closed around the crown. The forest breathed in. Leaves lifted, light bent. The crown pulsed against his skin, and suddenly, he was elsewhere. A vision, not a dream. He stood atop a high tower. The world stretched below in all directions, plains of glass, mountains with smoke pouring from their peaks, rivers that glowed like fire. Above, the sky was torn. Stars fell in showers, blazing like tears. Below, an army gathered, 10,000, clad in bone armor, wielding weapons forged of wood and starlight. He turned and saw himself, or someone who looked like him, older, crowned in the same antler circlet, wielding a blade that shimmered like frost and flame. Then, the scream. A sound that shattered the world. The vision broke. The boy collapsed beside the stone, breath ragged. The crown was in his lap. He did not know what he had seen, but it was not memory. Not exactly. Possibility, the crow whispered in his mind. Or warning. He rose unsteadily. The 13 hollow trees around him groaned, their roots shifting. Then a voice, not in his mind, but real, cracked and ragged like wind through an empty flute. Who dares take the king's memory? From one of the hollow trees stepped a figure. It wore robes of moss and bark. Its face was covered in a mask shaped like a deer's skull. Its hands were black with sap. It walked slowly toward the boy, and the earth bowed slightly beneath its steps. I don't know what I've taken, the boy said. You do. You dreamed it before your mother bled her last breath. You dreamed it when the stars first marked your bones. The figure extended a hand. Give it to me. The crown is not yet yours. The boy hesitated. The crown burned cold in his hands. No, he said. The masked figure hissed, not with anger, but with sorrow. Then the hollow tree wakes, and the price must be paid. From every hollow doorway they came, tall figures, wreathed in bark and light, eyes glowing beneath root masks. Their hands held spears of thorn, staffs of stone, blades of petrified branch. The forest howled. The crow shrieked. Run! The boy turned and fled. He ran as he never had before, not through open paths, but through tangled root and clawing bramble. The forest bent, screamed, shifted. Trees slammed down in front of him. Vines tried to catch his ankles. But the crown glowed now with a light of its own, and wherever he turned, the trees hesitated. They knew the crown. They remembered. The boy burst through a thicket, rolled down a steep hill, and landed in a glade lit with strange moonlight. Behind him, the figure stopped. The masked one stepped to the edge of the hill. "You're marked," it called. "The forest will test you. The stars will hunt you. And when the wheel turns once more, you will return what you stole." Then they vanished. The crow landed beside him, feathers ruffled, wings trembling. "Well," it croaked, "you're truly on the path now." The boy looked at the crown in his lap. "I don't want to be a king," he said. "Good," the crow said. "Those who do are the first to fall."